to be honest with you, I like John a lot. He's a very interesting character. He has the man could have been anything he wanted to be in life.
Yeah.
He's a very bright guy. He has a photographic memory. He's Albanian also.
Yeah.
A lot of the Albanians don't care for him because of being a so-called rat.
Yeah.
Every time I'm with John, I have a great time.
Yeah.
My business dealings with him went a little sour because you can't do. John's a tough character.
Yeah.
And he wants everything his way, and that's okay. I didn't write his book to make money. I really didn't. I did it more or less. He asked me to do it, and I said, okay, fine. And we had a deal which I didn't get. But I'm not mad at him. I'm not unhappy with him. The other book that is doing a lot better than John's book, and not because it's a better book. John's a little bit over. How can I say this? Overexposed. You know,
let me ask you a question. One of the challenges I have is, and there's a reason why I kind of migrated towards John. What happened was he came on the scene and I interviewed him and did really well, right? And the Gottis are not a big fan of mine, right? And I've reached out to them multiple times and said, hey, guys, you know how press works. I interviewed this guy and this is what I'm doing.
Right.
Would you like to send a representative or whatever? So obviously I wasn't big enough at the time for John Jr. to come on, or nor does he do a lot of press. Angel's not a big fan of mine. And then lastly, they sent maybe a representative over that wasn't part of the family. So that didn't have as much weight as having us alien.
Right, right.
So over the years, Alite made himself more available than the other side did. So
yes.
I didn't favor him because it was favoritism, it was accessibility, right? So what I'll do is I'll give him the fact that he makes himself accessible and he's good at hiding, he's good at seeing rising stars like yourself, right? Granted, you're tenured, you're still a rising star, right? However, my experience has been with dealing with a lot of these guys is they tend to do business the way they did in the streets, and business is different.
Absolutely. It's a whole different world.
Yeah. So how well did that book do, or how well is it doing?
You know what? I've been cut off from the sales, but I can tell you from what I see, it's not doing well. The book that is doing well is the Borello book.
Okay, question. So you hooked up with Gene Borello, and I understand you kind of had a connection with him. Walk us through your experience with Gene.
Well, I could tell you the first time Gene walked in, I met him at the cigar place in Fort Lee, where I occasionally go. Yeah, it's a nice place. I know the owner fairly well, and so anyway, he walks in, and I'm from the genre of the old mob guys in the Bronx where I grew up. I knew them all.
Yeah.
My father, my grandfather knew them all. They were always dressed nattily, and who wore suits, who wore the same color outfits with the same shoes. Very dressed up guy. Well, this guy walks in, and he's got a T-shirt built like a brick shithouse. Excuse the French. Shorts and sneakers, and I'm like, okay, this is Gene Borello, and we sit down, and he's got Omerta tattooed on his arm.
Yeah.
And I said to him, well, I guess you didn't listen too much to that advice, did you? I did. I said it to him, Tom. I was like, this guy could, crush me in two. And we both laughed, and he said, no, I guess I didn't. And that's what started the relationship off. And he's a rapid talker. He's a great guy.
Yeah.
He has anger issues, and he has to overcome those anger issues.
Yep.
And I've been trying to help him a little bit, but I'm not a psychologist, nor am I his dad, but I do help him from time to time. And his story is fascinating. If you're looking for murders, they're not in there.
Yeah.
But if you're looking for an everyday gangster and what they had to go through, and the brutality of being in the mob, and how bad it is on a day-to-day basis, and what you have to do to keep yourself in money, eating.
Correct.
The Borello book, people love it. In spite of the issues that we have with the book itself, it's selling like crazy, man. I think the last time I looked, it was like 7,000 or 8,000 sales, and which is
7,000 or 8,000 copies.
Yeah. And it's highly ranked. It's been in the top 100 for the past 2 weeks. I think it just went into 115 today, and in that genre. Yeah. And it's got a lot of, and Gene is always having me mail out books with his signatures in it. I mean, He's great. The problem is that the life is not great. It's a treacherous life.
Yep.
And if the young people could read it and see it and know it's treacherous, and John Alite always discusses that with young people, and to his credit, he does that.
Yeah.
He does give something back to the community, and I admire him very much for that. John's a brilliant guy. He really is.
Well, let me ask you. So, and I think you're one of the very few people qualified because you grew up in the Bronx. You're Italian American. You're successful on the legitimate side. You probably respectfully had access to some illegitimate guys as well, but decided to go the right route. And I'm fascinated with kind of the business end. And I'll give you an example. So the Italian American Cosa Nostra is obviously on a steep decline, right? And I think the biggest reason is, and I get crap for this all the time, is they didn't keep up with the times and they didn't innovate, right? I always say, I say it every show and I get abused for it. They should have recruited guys like you and me and said, listen, we're going to make this more of a Freemasonry, an Italian American brotherhood. Now, don't get me wrong. We keep our hands in the rackets. We have, listen, if you need something done, you let the consigliere know. We don't know anything, and it happens. Right. You know what I mean? We live off our reputation. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like the Jewish gangsters, but emulate the society, create like a Freemasonry to the point that there's like one in every town, and it's called the Colombo Social Club. Freemasonry doesn't hide.
Right.
And build a unified Italian American business front that is actually infiltrates society, but in actually a different way. So why do you think the mob, and then conversely, in Italy, the Calabrian mob is bigger than all of them. So like as the Americans declined, we can't say it's the Italian-esque culture because Italian Americans follow that culture. It's just the Italian Americans didn't adopt why the Calabrians did. So give us your thought on that, Lou.
Well, the 'Ndrangheta is probably the most violent of the three organized crime units in Italy. They are